Chao Foundation, which is an organization which takes care of acid attack survivors in India. They were looking for someone to MC their online programs. And of course, I jumped in. And since then, it is said that acid attack is the worst crime, even worse than killing someone, because you leave someone to live with that pain every single day when they look at themselves in the mirror. And for them to come out of it, be confident enough to work is amazing. When at the end of the day, you go there for your final brushing of the teeth before you go to sleep. If you can look in the mirror and smile, that's success. Because we've come with a definite life. We don't have an indefinite lifespan. Every day counts.
Welcome to Thrive Talks. In this episode, I am personally thrilled to interview an extraordinary woman who transformed from a mother of four, a normal homemaker, into a literary powerhouse. She broke the stereotypes of women past the age of 50, proving that it's never too late to turn your passion into something incredible. So, whether you're a creative artist who really feels dejected in life right now, a homemaker who has a passion to do something more than just tending to her house, which she does so beautifully, or someone who thinks that they're too old to do anything in their life, I know you're going to get something incredible out of this interview. So I'll not put in any more efforts in describing who she is. Please go ahead and watch the episode. Enjoy. Welcome to Thrive Talks. Anupam ji, namaste. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here on the
Oh,
show with you. Looking forward.
I am even more excited. But let's start with firstly, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm very happy. I am mostly a Rajasic person, so when there's lots of work and the work is going well, I'm very happy. So today is one such day. So well done to
Yes.
you for this happiness that I have.
Aw, you're always so cute, and this is why you're the first guest on my show because
Thank
I
you.
wanted to bring in positivity, and that is what you are, an energizer and an absolute creative powerhouse.
Thank you.
So, for the viewers, you are a plethora of things, from a homemaker to a mother of four to literally a Hindi production owner, a writer, a poet. I just want to start with how. How did this all just come together?
Not really by one's own means, most certainly. Because, we all come into this universe with so many of our past life impressions and so many dreams and aspirations that we want to fulfill. Um, in my life, they came one at a time. Like, there was a time when, and I love telling everyone this, when all my children would have had their dinner, slept without any cough or cold, and the homeworks were done, used to be a day accomplished for me. And then from there, once my daughter moved to the UK, I think that was a wake up call for me because till then I was living in this wonderful balloon of, oh, we'll always be together and it'll be a happy family. And then one daughter went and then the other went. And I realized that really this is not how things work. And your emotions would come out in what form if not poetry? I have been doing poetry since childhood. However, it kind of took a back seat when I came to Bahrain, mostly because there were no avenues, there was no one to share it with. So then, thanks to Facebook and thanks to the girls going, you had some sort of an audience, your friends who also liked poetry, and that's how poetry started. And theater has always been a passion for me. And when I was in college, I was one of those rebel daughters who, without telling her mother, would go for these street plays. Because there we went into slums and you were literally vulnerable. there. Someone could come and even slap you and go if they didn't like the topic that you were talking about. So from there, that urge to see theater came with me to Bahrain. However, here we have very few and very far between productions that actually come to Bahrain. And hence Noor Bano happened. And the reception that I received was so glorious that it convinced me to start my own WLL company and call it Khwabga, because it's all about dreams coming true. And I've tried to do one production per year since then, barring the 2 years of COVID. So it comes along. And then during COVID, Bhagavad Gita happened. So the teacher decided I should also be taking classes in Hindi, because mostly everyone was taking classes in English. So I started taking classes in Hindi, and now most of my listeners, I would call them, are the senior citizens who just love to listen to, stories and everything about our scriptures. And encouraged by that, now I'm also doing a Valmiki Ramayana with them. So that's how that happened. And in between, again during COVID, because like I told you, I like to work. There was nothing to do, I felt. So I saw this post on Instagram where Chow Foundation, which is an organization which takes care of acid attack survivors in India, they were looking for someone to MC their online programs. And of course, I jumped in. And since then, life has taken another turn in terms of the dimensions at which people can take in pain. Because it is said that acid attack is the worst crime, even worse than killing someone, because you leave someone to live with that pain every single day when they look at themselves in the mirror. And for them to come out of it, be confident enough to work, is amazing. So, yes, I'm also associated with Chow Foundation, and whenever they want, I MC their online programs.
Wow.
So far,
Wow.
yes.
I mean, your creative expression just didn't come with your childhood fascination with, Prem Chand and Amrita Preetham, but I think it's come out with working with people in the slums of India, working with survivors, that you've got so many feathers to your hat because of that, isn't it?
They make you, they improve you as a person, as a human being. Everything that you do in life will either, uh, it depends on again what you take from it. Whether I'm able to take the tea or I'm complaining about the tea leaves left in the sieve. It's really your perspective. But everything that comes your way comes to teach you something. And I have learned a lot from all of these people, all of these situations, all of these struggles. They just polish you. They make you better in some form or the other. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
And I'm loving it, really. The understanding that I get from the scriptures, I'm just loving it, because that kind of changes the whole dimension, perspective with which you look at life.
Changes your perceptions and thoughts, isn't it?
Yes.
Without you even knowing.
No, it suddenly one day you realized, oh my God, this used to upset me and it's not upsetting me more. You see, if I could just tell you in 2 minutes, we live with this illusion, massive illusion, that I am this body and everything around me is mine. And when you get into scriptures, you realize there is a very famous stotra chant by Shankaracharya, Shivoham. And the story behind it is equally fascinating, because he went into some new state and he wanted to meet the king so that he could then get access to all the learned people, and he could have some kind of a shastrarth with them, where they discuss about these subjects. And the person, because he was simply dressed, the person at the door said, "But who are you? Why should I tell the king that you have come?" And instead of telling him, "My name is Shankaracharya," he actually came up with this bhajan almost instantly. Shivoham Shivoham, Shiva Swarupoham. So when you realize that you also are that Shivoham, things change. We so many times we say, "I just felt like doing it, so I did it. I knew I had to do it." It's not just one mind. There are times when we come up with statements like, "Your mind is playing games." Mind is not one blob here. It is a conglomerate. It's a family of four. You have this sense driven mind, or what we call manas. Then you have an intellect, which we rarely use. And then you have your past impressions, which we call chitta, or which is your memory bank. Then, of course, there is the mastermind, the ego. So, this little child, your manas, sees something and gets tempted and wants to experience it. Like a little child insisting on having an ice lolly. And then there is the mother, the intellect, which says, "No, not now." However, if the mother is really pampering the kid, she'll say, "It's okay, you have the ice cream and later I'll give you paracetamol." And most of us, for us, our intellect is doing that. It's just spoiling our sense driven mind. And to decide whether to do it or not to do it, how to go about doing it, the mother takes support of the father. Father is your memory bank who will say, "No, but the last time when he had ice cream, he was fine. So maybe he can have today also." And you go ahead and give it. And all of them are governed by that big fat lady of the house, the granny, the ego. And once you start thinking in this perspective, you suddenly realize, "Oh, this is just my sense driven mind. It is just that I'm getting tempted to have it. It's not something that I desire and so that I need." And so many things we do just for desires. The whole materialism is based on desires. And the moment you step back 2 inches, you get a better view, a better perspective, and your not just your thinking, but also your decision making improves. And then you're not running behind them, so to say. So, yeah, this is what spirituality does. And this is how it shines and polishes you to make known decisions.
Absolutely. I think I couldn't agree more that, when I started at least seeing things from the observer's perspective,
Yes.
you can take in so much more neutrality. You can embody it rather than saying it's good or bad or, oh my God, why am I feeling this? Or, oh, I'm just so excited. It just brings you to a space of neutrality.
Yes. Yes.
And from that space, you're able to, objectively decide whether, yeah, okay, where's this going and where isn't this going? And I think
Yes.
you're a
Yes.
byproduct of a lot of inner work, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is not my first lifetime. I have
Mm.
been in so many different bodies, and in each body, I have collected so many impressions. So to realize that, oh, these are impressions, brings you into that space of equanimity, that neutrality. You don't judge people for what they are, and you don't question others' beliefs. And
Yeah.
while doing that, life becomes easier for you,
Oh, yeah.
because I'm giving out this kind of a judgmental vibe, or questioning vibe. The other person may not know, but they sense. And then the relationship is somewhere rigged, not as smooth sailing as it should be. Whereas you just try and accept, things become simpler.
Beautiful. Which,
Thank you.
brings me to this thing that I think, but I'll still ask you this that, from a homemaker, a beautiful mother, having that gap in between your literary pursuits and, being an absolute darling mother. When you ventured out again, in the world of theater, culture, entrepreneurship, you must be having something, some one big fear or,
Oh
something that
yes.
must have sprouted
Oh
up.
yes.
So
Oh yes.
what was that feeling? Like, that's what people don't realize. They're like, oh, suddenly when they jump in, they're like, oh, this is what's within me that I need to tackle.
Yes. Yes. You see, it's very simple. If the fear is not there, okay, then you're not putting in your 100%. Most certainly. So, yes, not just the first time. Every time when we put up a production, there are swarms of butterflies, not just butterflies in the stomach. But, and here is the journey that I was talking about, the growth. Every time there are butterflies, you go over whatever has to be done, whether it has been done perfectly. Like, for example, even when we do theater, you know, the first time when I did Noor Bano, it was a very simple story and it was a one set act. We had about six characters, very simple production. We went over it over and over and over again. I think we rehearsed for almost 5 months. And in that also, the last couple of weeks was like every day. So I was very confident by the end of that these people know what they have to do and where they have to do. You know, we place people and all that. Okay. We had done our publicity, we had created curiosity, and it was by invite only. So we had sent out invites and we had asked people to confirm. Now, you know Bahrain and you know how people work here. I did not get many confirmations till almost the one day before the play. We were doing our rehearsals, and casually somebody asked me, so, tomorrow you think this hall will have about 1 to 100 people? And I said, very honestly, I'm still hoping that, people come. And the next day, people started coming. And this wasn't in a very centrally located place. This was in Awali, which is quite out of the way for most people. One, two, three, they trickled in. And when we actually started performing, we were more than 400. More than 400 in that hall. So much so that more chairs had to be brought in to accommodate them. And I think that one day, between me telling that person not many have registered and me seeing these 400 odd people, what actually changed in me was the gratitude. Because somewhere this is God's will that these people have made the effort to come. So, therefore, for the next play, A, it should be somewhere more centrally located, but also B, there should be even more effort in the production. So that when people come, and they did come for Ramratan, they go back feeling it was worth their time and their money. So, yes, even today I have a lot of butterflies because we are going to start our next play rehearsals. And this time it's going to be very different, like from the normal plays that we've done so far. So, of course, truckloads of butterflies and a lot of investment in terms of money. But that is what pushes you to excel.
That's true.
So,
That's true. Wow. Wonderful. And for the viewers, Bahrain has 1.6 million in its population. And just imagine out of all of that sieving through people, 400 people coming for a Hindi play for the first time.
ever.
That is huge. That is absolutely huge. And yeah, there was a divine play happening, but you were the facilitator, and heartiest congratulations for that, because
Thank
that's
you.
so inspiring. And which brings me to my next question, that at this time, after going through so much in your life, You've accomplished what many dream of, you know. And what would you say to those who believe they're too old to start something new? Because that's such a huge paradigm. Na, ki, oh, my children are set, university done, this done. Yeah, I'm fine. What do I do now in life? That's every second or third mother's thought process.
Yes.
What do you tell them?
Actually, you can't tell anyone anything. It's your passion that tells you. If that force is there in your passion, then yes, definitely you can do it. The issue is, and I saw this during COVID, you know, from Chandigarh, an 83 or 80, 85-year-old grandmother, because it was COVID and lockdown, she started making besan laddus and selling them at the age of 85. And now I'm told she's one of the best sellers or whatever. So I think you have to have the conviction in your passion. Many of us live with that feeling that I'm not good enough. Whether it is my age, see, I go on stage for theater. I have to be on. Now, even though I don't act, I go in the end to talk to the audience, but I do go on stage. I have to be comfortable in my own skin. My receding hairline, my expanding waistline, all of that. But at that time when I'm on stage, none of this matters. What matters is what I deliver to the audience in those 4 5 minutes, when they just want to know, oh, play was nice, but why did she do this? Or what was she trying to say? Or something of that. Conviction is what matters the most. Nothing else. If you have that conviction in your dreams, then age is actually immaterial. It's not even a number, it's just not there. Because talk about age, your soul age is millions of years. And if your soul still has that bubbly feel to it, that every time you are born in a new body, you're still excited and happy, then why not you? And what stops you from dreaming? Really, what stops me from dreaming? My own limitations that I put on myself. Boman Irani, I think, started acting after he was 50. His first film was Munna Bhai, in which he was 50 plus and he was doing the role of someone who was 70. So there you go. And now he's one of the most respected actors in the film fraternity. And this coming from a fraternity which is marred by all these things like, oh, family friend and this and that. And he made his mark, and how wonderfully at that age. So why not?
Mm, yeah.
You might see me one day playing Bowman's wife if someone
Oh.
spots me. It was such a cute couple, no?
Ah, your wish is their command. But honestly, I think if you have a will and drive,
Yeah, the
things just happen.
drive is what is missing. I'll tell you, we were trying to organize an art exhibition here, and somebody came and told us that I have these paintings. Can you please put them? And we were working on a theme, so we said, may not work. That person was not happy. Her excuse was, we do it for a passion. We don't do it as a profession. So it'll be a lot of expenditure if I make more paintings as per your theme. But then that's the point. How passionate are you that you cannot take up this challenge? Right? That is where we miss the train.
That's it. That's it. We don't let a mind come in the way. Let the heart lead the way. And
Actually, it is all mind. Like I said, those four, the fears stop you. Your past, and the most important is the fear of failure. Because the moment you start anything, there is always a chance it may not do well. But then you just have to pull up your socks and walk. I mean, who would believe today that Amitabh Bachchan was rejected by All India Radio? You know, we have lived our lives listening to his baritone. He was rejected by All India Radio. They said your voice is not good enough. And now we say, thank God they rejected him. If he had gotten that job, he would just be another Amin Sayani instead of being the Amitabh Bachchan. So
I guess rejections are the biggest signs telling you
yes,
go push harder, do better, and then we shall reward you. And I truly believe that because whenever I've got rejected, it's driven me more to do other things and experiment more. And I think experimentation is your biggest cheerleader and the stepping stone to your success.
absolutely, absolutely, 100%. Harivansh Rai Bachchan always used to say, "Man ka ho to bhala, man ka na ho to aur bhi bhala." If you get what you desire, it's good. But if you don't get, then it's even better because then you're getting what the universe is giving you. You know, you kind of open up to receiving from the universe.
That's it.
So let's do it.
That's it. I mean, a lot of people would think this is philosophy, but I think this is an experiential truth that when you go through it, you'll actually start
Yes,
developing that confirmation that, yeah, there's this essence of truth in what we're talking, and we'll let the
absolutely.
viewers really feel into that aspect. But now I really want to come to your baby, your little baby, your production house, Khwabga.
Yes.
The House of Dreams. How did this get inspired? Like the name, the essence of it.
So you see, like I told you, the only, in Bahrain, we live a fairly cushioned life. By God's grace, we don't have even as much load shedding. Like
Mm.
in 32 years here, I have experienced load shedding twice. So a lot of things just happen. Routine takes over. And you actually have time to think about the finer things. And the only thing I always missed in Bahrain was theater. And then this one time I was sitting and I was listening to ghazals by Piyush Mishra. Huge fan of his poetry. He is an amazing poet. And this story kind of germinated. And I shared it with a friend, and she said, actually, I was sitting and complaining, whining to her. They don't do theater in Bahrain. What is this? She said, you go do it. And I told her, actually, this story has been bothering me. So she is a very, very practical person. She said, go write. So it took me a lot of time to write it because I wrote it like a story. And then she said, no, write it like a play. So I want two columns and I want the name of the character here, and then the dialogue, and then the name, and then the dialogue, all of that. It took me quite some time to do this. And once I did that, she was happy with the end product. And she said, yeah, you can go ahead. And probably I just needed that one push. So I went around getting friends who I thought were interested in theater. And every Friday morning, furniture was shifted and rehearsals were done. One thing led to another, and we had thought of doing it at a very small level, but like I said, we landed up doing it at the Bapco Club, which is a very prestigious hall. And when I saw those people sitting there and cheering and clapping, giving us the ovation, I told myself this was the dream which has come true, and that is where Khwabgan came up. It is that space where dreams come true, and not just for me, for a lot of my actors, for a lot of because for the musicians, for the set designers, because everyone has that creative streak within them. Unfortunately, we get so wound up trying to earn the bread and butter and then getting greedy that butter should be on both sides of the bread, that that creative part of you is somewhere left out. Like they say, this is childhood trauma. There is something called creativity trauma, because that creative child has been shut somewhere. He comes out after a few drinks in a dinner party. You see people singing and beautifully, but when you
Mm.
tell them come sing with us on stage, they're like, no, I don't think I can do it. You see people performing, but then they're not happy to perform on stage. So somewhere we shun that little creative child, but we all have it. And those people who join me, and gradually now, we've got a big group. We started, like I said, with 5, 6 people. Now we have a big group. And my current play, which we are going to do, it's called Dadi Ma Ka Putla. It has only a cast of 23. Now add on to that the supporting, the makeup, the music, the set, the lighting, whole lot of things. We are a big group, and each one there is a professional working somewhere in an important position, and yet they take out time for this passion of theirs. And I think that is all that matters. Every time we do a play, and the last 2 days, like the day of the play and before that, I'm there for probably 12 to 14 hours, because we have to put up a set, we have to fix the lights, and then we do rehearsals, and then we do recording. And the next day, of course. And after the end of those 2 days, when the set is being removed and I sit there, I'm dead tired. I could snore off there. But it is that satisfaction that keeps me going, because we have created something beautiful together. Problem is, we don't venture out. Each
Mm.
one has a dream to do something different, special, beautiful. We don't venture out. We make mandala art and we keep it in our store. Display. Yes, it's
Mm.
vulnerable. Someone might come and judge you on it. What is this? Tacky colors. But so be it. You've given expression to your innermost feelings, and that makes you radiate.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think the more, it resonates so much with me, the more I've started like doing art and doing everything that brings me joy, including this today. I had butterflies before bringing you on, but now I just have like it's like I've had 5 whiskeys down and enjoying that conversation with
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
Uh,
certainly. Definitely.
it's just that leap. And over
Yes.
time, you just know the brain's gonna come, but just take the leap. We're so
Yeah.
accustomed. It's like gym, gym work.
Yes. And you need to do it to
Mm,
experience the exhilaration.
absolutely.
Otherwise, you will be sitting there. So many people, I'll tell you, Kanika, after every place, there are so many people who will come and tell me, oh, you must take me also. I can act. And I trust them. They can act. Anyone can act. But when I've actually written a play and then I go back to them, because it takes me time to write a play, and I go back to them, they're like, oh no, not to me. Oh no, I can't do it. And sometimes you feel like holding and shaking them. You can do it. I know it. I can tell. But each to his own. And the ones who do it are the ones who actually are thrilled. Otherwise, they wouldn't come back for the next play.
Yeah.
My so-called core team that was there with me in Men Urbano, the first play, has been with me for these past, 7 years. So obviously there is something that hits at their heart. I'm not paying them money. I cannot pay. What can I pay a person who's working as a CFO in a bank? What will I pay him that is worthy of his time? So and I also don't make as much money in place. That's a sideline. But I can't pay them. And yet they keep coming year after year. Sometimes even as, oh, even if there is no role for me, Anubhav, I'll come and support, backstage. So there is some satisfaction there when you live your dreams. Let's do it.
Beautiful. Which brings me to this very raw question, right? That a Hindi theater in the Middle East, Bahrain, and first of its kind, there must be some challenge, like, at the forefront of finances or whatever. Like, if someone was hearing this and wanted to even start a pet project, but thinking, ki, oh gosh, you know what, I need this and that, and there's so many hows that comes. Yeah. Can you tell, like, exactly what were the challenges to birth Khwapga?
Okay. So my very first play, Noor Bano, I wanted to do Noor Bano. That was the only thing. Okay. Money was not even on the horizon at all. So I had been saving some money from, kitties. And then I have worked occasionally here
Mm.
and there, AMA University, British school. So I had some money saved and I used it all up because you rented the hall, then you had the lights, the light man, and then because it was the first one, my husband thought, we are calling people, we should give them food. So after the play, Punjabis don't change. They will
Atiti
come.
Devo Bhava. You are a typical Indian. Atiti
So
Devo Bhava. Guests are like God.
absolutely. So so apart from the other expenditure, we also had this food for 400 odd people that we provided.
Wow.
But at that time, everything went from that kitty that I had been saving. So funds did not come in as a roadblock for the first play. But then, of course, going by the response, we registered Quaka. And for the second play, we went and we approached people for sponsorships and we sold tickets. Uh, like you would know, Cultural Hall is a very expensive hall in Bahrain, but that is probably the best hall to do theater. So, therefore, we were going to do Ram Ratan only in the Cultural Hall. And again, I went and booked the Cultural Hall much before we actually sent letters to people for sponsorships. Now, I think what we talk about the power of manifestation or affirmations, I was very sure I'm doing it here, and I was very sure I'm selling tickets. Yes, it was a lot of effort to sell tickets. Yes, it was a lot of effort to get sponsors for a first time Hindi theater because it was unheard of. Who does,
Mm.
first of all, who goes for theater? And that too, Hindi, it kind of limits your audience as well as people you can approach for
True.
sponsorships. And I think there my husband came in as a huge help because, he has the gift of the gab. He can market ideas. So he helped a lot in getting sponsors. But yes, of course, it was a struggle. And
Mm.
till the last day, for every play, till the last day, it is a struggle because you are trying to sell as many tickets as you can. That's the least I can do for my artists. That when they are performing something they've spent so much time on, they at least get an audience of, a full house. So I always work with this target or objective in mind that I will give them a full house. And for that, I will just go all out. And hence, yes, this has been this has been our major challenge, finance, always. Because, like I said, many people come and tell me, why don't you do it in English? You'll get a wider audience, then maybe you'll get more sponsors. Like somebody once told me, just translate this play into English. But even if I translate it into English, its background is very Indian. It will fall flat if I do it in English. So hence quality is never compromised. So two things I work with. One is 100% effort, whether it is on production, whether it is on finance, whether it is on sale of tickets, anything. 100% effort. And the second is that full faith in God that we will get a full house. And once we do get a full house and we do save some 100, 200 measly dinars, we then give it for charity.
Beautiful.
So, like this year, the play that we did in 2023, charity was the Royal Humanitarian Foundation. We gave them all the profits.
Beautiful.
So that's how it works. And I think it's a cycle of positivity, of confidence, of conviction, which works. And now that we've done 4 productions, this is going to be our fifth. The audience also kind of knows that they'll get quality.
Hmm.
I still remember, it's a very cute thing, but for the first play, I wanted the musician, because we do live music, right? So I wanted Chiradeep to sit at the back with me, because I was at the back with the light man, the guy who was now brighten this, lighten that, all of that. And Chiro said, no, I have seen so many plays happening in Bahrain, regional languages. People make a lot of noise, children running around. I will not get my focus. So we had to literally create an aisle for him, because people can't sit behind him, they can't see. So we created an aisle just so he would sit in front. And after the play, he came and told me, you know what, I could have sat anywhere. There was pin drop silence. So people, when they know the product that you are giving, that you're going to serve them, automatically that respect comes. So now for our plays, we see people coming on time, taking their seats and waiting. And when we announce we are about to begin, kindly switch off your phones. All phones go off. Audience needs to see that you respect their time and that you are giving them value for their time and money. And then challenges will eventually melt away. Eventually. But there's no magic wand here.
And I
But
think
then
this.
why do I need a magic wand? You see? I don't grow if there is a magic wand. So, yeah. Sorry, I think I'm speaking much more than I should.
No, you're not. You're giving us those wisdom nuggets that people want to hear, because I truly feel like this experience has really changed your perspective on life, on success, on challenges at such different levels. Because bringing a regional Indian language theater to Bahrain, to a global stage, needs a lot of courage. And that's what, I mean, you're an inspiration to many, including me.
Thank
So
you.
hats
Thank
off,
you.
like to give
Yeah.
this essence of Khwabga and what it took for it to manifest in such a beautiful manner that it's getting blessings and cheering on like innumerably.
Yes. Yes. So, and I've seen people's uh, attitude towards me, perspective of me also change now. From another Indian who just came to Bahrain
Mm,
to, oh, okay. They kind of listen to you more seriously. Not that it matters, but yes, the change is happening slowly and gradually.
And I think that's very true, because then you're able to impact so many more people to do
Yes.
what you've done. And I think there has to be a change in this paradigm of, doing things for the greater good, for for
Yes.
something that brings you joy, and you are an example, and
Thank
you've
you.
built that credibility. And so, hats off,
Thank
Anupanti,
you.
really. But now, I am very intrigued by one aspect that I read about you, which was your upcoming books.
Ah,
Ritli Chhap and Phir Kho Gaya Sheher Mera. It's like an absolute poetry in dance.
yes.
But can I ask you, like, can you give us a sneak peek, just a small sneak peek? I don't want to give in everything, but just a small sneak peek about it.
Yeah. So these books also currently are on the back burner. And the reason for that is that during COVID, my publisher passed away. And unfortunately, the person who then took charge has lost the manuscripts. So now I have to re upload everything, look for another publisher. And I thought maybe this is also a blessing because in the course of this time, between when I had actually given the manuscripts to him and now, I have met some wonderful artists, you know, and
Mm.
my dream always was to have some kind of artwork with it. Not just open a book like a textbook which has only writing, but some artwork, and that too, if it can be abstract, even better. So, by God's grace, now that I've got someone who's ready to do the abstract work for me, I'm kind of revisiting these and trying to maybe collaborate with him and get a conglomerate of poetry and art together. So, you open a page and there is something about woman empowerment, and
Mm.
you just see a dupatta or a sari flying in multicolors. And then I'm
Mm.
talking about मुझे मत रोको मैं रुकने को नहीं जन्मी थी, those kind of things. So because it's very important, once you go out there, for people to actually pick up your book and read. And as much as you are very proud of all of your poems because you feel you've done a wonderful job, in order to get the audience there, if there is some color splashed around, it works. So hence it is currently on the back burner, and it's my agenda for the next month of August because July, August, children have holidays in Bahrain. So I'm in Bahrain, and that's now my agenda to finish it by August so that maybe I can launch it with on the day of Dadi Maka Putla, which is my next play.
All right, so your collection of poetry is almost about to come
Yes,
forth
it
very
has
soon.
to come. It has to come because people have said that it makes sense. You see,
Mm.
there is another dimension to publishing, which is self-publishing. So anyone who has a little moolah goes and publishes their own books. And as
Mm.
a result, the audience there is not really looking at us with that level of respect, which we had. Because back in the day, self publishing was not a thing. So, hence, I'm trying to bring it up to that standard so that if people want and they pick up the book, they get something from it. Not just a series of rhymes. आता है जाता है खाता है माता है.
Mm.
Beyond that. Yeah.
Beyond beautiful.
Also because I mostly don't write in rhyme. Hence, of course, there is a structure to every poem you write. There has to be a structure. But I don't believe in rhyming all the time. So if there is no rhyme in my poetry, then the art should not also have a definite structure. So hence abstract. Abstract art with poetry, and they kind of enhance each other's reachability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. So let's now in this segment get all the juice out of you for the viewers. This is going to be like a rapid fire round.
Shoot.
All right. Because you're like this box of wisdom that I'm pretty sure people can just like absorb everything. So let me shoot a couple of questions, which I know are going
Sure.
to be truly inspiring for a lot of people. Yeah.
Definitely.
So, a lot of people are on their own growth journey, right? For those who are watching and who feel stuck in their current life situation, what's the one small step you'd recommend they take towards their dream today?
The one small step. That's all it takes. Because that stuck that you're feeling is probably because it's like, having a small pebble in a drain of water. A stream of water is going, and there is one pebble, and the water is stuck, 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 till a push comes and it goes beyond the pebble. That's all it takes. Just not to give up. That is the mantra, to not give up.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
second that completely. I second that completely. All right. Next one. Looking back at all these years, right? What's the most important life lesson that you've learned that you wish you could have told your younger self?
This too shall pass.
Yeah.
When you're stuck, you cannot, nothing is permanent in this life. So how will my problems be permanent, and how will my success be permanent? It just gets you grounded. And all you need to do, you see, in life, you may not believe in rebirth, you may not believe in the law of karma, doesn't matter. The one thing you have to believe is that everything passes. And if everything passes, I get grounded. The moment I'm grounded, I'm in a happy space. Like that day, I saw this interview of Amitabh Bachchan, and he was asked, how do you deal with the fan following or the lack of it? And he said, look, in 70s and 80s, if I had to go out for a meal, it used to be a challenge because, yes, people would come, and you were looking for family time, but people are just coming from all around. But he says, now it's not as much. Now, when I go for a dinner, there's not as much of a hoo ha as there is if, let's say, an Amir Khan or a Shah Rukh Khan comes in, or even a Ranveer Singh comes in. He says people will actually forget about me and go and get an autograph from Ranveer Singh. So the interviewer asked him, how do you deal with it then? He says, nothing. I go eat my food and go home. It's not that easy for a lot of us because we take even this fan following for granted.
Hmm.
And that is where we get stuck, you know. So
Beautiful.
the mantra always is, this too shall pass.
Amazing. So, your story challenges many stereotypes about, homemakers and women above the age of 50. How do you hope your journey will change their perspective? Or even like ignite a small spark in their heart?
Self-bloating is not something I'm very good at. But okay, I'll tell you one thing that I do most consciously. Okay, I have a few favorite topics that I will always write and recite poems on or short stories on whenever I get a platform. You see, I go to many online virtual platforms. The idea behind that is somebody who is listening will get inspired to do something differently. Like I had written a poem which was Hori Keran Jaun Kya. So this young girl is asking her mother if she can go out and play Holi, the festival of colors. For a young child of 3 or 4, this is such an innocent wish. And the mother tells her, no, no, don't go because there's a lot of crowd there. She gets a little bigger, maybe she's in her teens, and the mother says, no, no, don't go. there are boys there who might misbehave with you. She gets a little bigger. The mother says, no, don't go. You will tan and you are going to get married. She gets a little bigger, and again the mother says, no, don't go. Oh, because you're going to get married. What will your in laws say? She gets a little bigger, older, and then she asks her mother, and the mother says, are you funny? You're pregnant. You're not supposed to go out and play like this. And this carries on in her life. This was all in a poem, of course. And in the end, the poem ends with, now she doesn't even feel like going out to play Holi because she's accepted that this is how it should be because of the family values. And then her granddaughter comes and holds her hand, takes her out, and just splashes her with color water, the whole bucket. And that day, Ammaji lives her life. And from that day onwards, she plays Holi every year.
Oh,
Okay. So it may inspire someone to look objectively at the norms and the do's and the don'ts and the boundaries that have been imposed on them to see how they can, just fly a little above the boundary and see if it helps you in your flight of dreams.
beautiful.
Yeah.
You always mesmerize me.
Thank
Okay,
you.
3 more questions. So, coming back to the whole place of, entrepreneurship and production, director and owner, and motherhood and homemaker, how do you balance this? Because I know there'll be a lot of people thinking this it's too much for me. But how do you balance it?
You see, first of all, this concept of too much is a myth. Okay. Because you are born with so much of potential. I was shocked when I first heard that we humans, on an average, use only 4% of our brain capacity throughout our lives. That was like such a dampener. I was like, 96% is getting wasted. You see, so there's nothing like too much. All you do is you plan and execute. And most importantly, the one thing that I can be proud of is that I've always taken my family along. It's never an either or. So, for example, when we do the play, or like in the past 2 years, 3 years, we've done poetry meets at the Indian Embassy. You need ushers, and I always ask my sons as well as the children of my cast and crew, the children of my poets, to come and do the job of ushers. And then they are thanked in the end, obviously. Kind of builds that belongingness.
Mm.
Also, your children tend to see and appreciate how hard you're working at getting something right. And in theater, there are a lot of small nuances. Like if you are from a particular part of India, how will you call your mother? Between the amma and the I and the ma and the amma ji, there is the entire span of India. So how do you say it? And when your child sees you getting that perfectly with the actor again and again and again, they learn a lot of lessons from you. They learn persistence. They learn how to not give up, you know. So I don't think it is that hard. And also, you see, we underestimate our children. They are capable of a lot more. And I was told this by one of our family friends who are both doctors, husband and wife. She said, Anupam, children are so flexible. They just have to have this one assurance that you are not neglecting them knowingly. Okay? Once that is out of the way, children are going to support you in it. And true to that, my children always support me.
That's
because they've seen through this, the whole thing. Every Friday morning, they know what happens in the house with the rehearsals. So, yeah. But of course, it's work in progress.
wow.
So,
And that's brilliant, because a lot of people, like, especially from what I've seen, right? Oh, why should my child usher? Or, they have this social paradigm that, oh, we're too, it's that inferiority complex or whatever you want to call it, condescending behavior. But, oh, why does my child need to usher? But I think that brings in so much of humility and so much of appreciation that what you've inculcated in your children, it's called conscious parenting, that, see everything, experience everything so that you know the value of everything.
absolutely. And most importantly, Kanika, let me tell you, actually, when they do any of these things, it is like a life skill they learn.
That's it.
Okay? How to interact with people you do not know. You are leading them. Like this time when we did Yatharth, we had VIPs come in, like the Indian ambassador was there, the Royal Humanitarian Fund president was there, and my son and my friend's daughter. They brought them in, they sat them, gave them bouquets, whatever. It is a life lesson for them. How do you deal with a VIP? Thank God these VIPs didn't have tantrums, but there are VIPs who come with tantrums. How do you deal with people with tantrums? How do you deal with a good person? How do you deal with a person who has a special request? Oh, I cannot climb steps. Can you please change my seat? Whatever. There's a whole lot of thing learning that goes on in that 2 3 hours that they are doing this work. So my caste actually, I'm grateful for it. They actually look forward to it. They ask me, so the kids are going to usher this time also. What do you think is going to be their dress code? We should get them ready. Like sometimes we have blazers. So this one time we had all of them wearing a kurta pajama with a red stole kind of a dupatta. Parents look forward to it because they realize how much the children learn. You see, and nobody has learned to swim in a bucket.
Not at all.
So,
Unless you're a goldfish and you keep on forgetting
yes. See,
and
that's the
relearning.
thing. To learn in a bucket, you need to be a goldfish. And if you're a goldfish, you're bound to forget it.
That's right.
Go in the
So
open sea.
that's it. That's it.
That is it. You see, we inhibit our own dreams. I very strongly believe. Not everything is going to be smooth sailing. Not always is it going to be smooth sailing. But then why do I want it to be a smooth sail?
That's it.
You see, the challenges are what make me grow. Like I had read somewhere once, thickest vegetation is in the valleys. Mountain tops are always bare. So let's grow, you
Powerful.
know.
Really powerful.
Yes. That
Really, really.
and these things have kind of motivated me to do what I do.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So, what's that one short advice you'd like to give those aspiring creative artists looking to make an impact across borders, bring their culture, the Indian culture, to wherever they are?
I would just say do it. You see, the reason we don't do anything is because we doubt the outcome.
Hmm.
And once you start imbibing the Bhagavad Gita in yourself, which says that your only control is on your effort and not on the outcome, you realize there is nothing stopping you. You become unstoppable. Do and do with 100% effort. Nobody buys half baked cookies. They don't even taste good, to be honest. Just do it. That's it.
Yeah.
You have the conviction, do it.
Beautiful. All right. Before we wrap up, just one last question. How do you, and I know this is going to be eye opening, right? But how do you personally define success in your life? What makes you
When
thrive?
when at the end of the day, you go there for your final brushing of the teeth before you go to sleep. If you can look in the mirror and smile, that's success. Because we've come with a definite life. We don't have an indefinite lifespan. Every day counts. So let's make every day count. That is success. One step at a time, one day at
Beautiful.
a time.
Oh, I could squeeze you more and more and more to take out all that juicy gold nuggets
Yeah.
in terms of wisdom from you. But Anupamji, thank you so much for being so raw and
Thank
real.
you.
Such an inspiration. Everything that you said was, has such deep truths embedded in them. And the more people watch it and just absorb it, I know they'll gain so much from it. So
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much for being on Thrive Talks.
Thank you.
Are there any last words you want to share with the viewers?
You're doing great, Kanika, and I'm so proud of you. Just keep doing what you're doing
It came to me.
and inspire everyone. Yes, because you see, sometimes I get this a lot, honestly. Oh, but at your age, it's okay to read the Bhagavad Gita, no? Not at my age. So one can inspire at every age. We have this very powerful saying from Sadhguru. He says, the Guru is just a path, but your path is your Guru. So, this life journey, each and every person inspires. And you are inspiring so many. So just keep doing what you're doing. And I think I get inspired when I look at you. So God bless you for that.
Thank
Thank you.
you. So
Thank you.
do I. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And guys, viewers, if you loved it, like it, send her some love because I know that I love her and I'm pretty sure you guys have loved her. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being on the show, Anupam ji.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for today, folks. If the conversation sparks something within you, go ahead, take it and apply it in your life. If you found this episode valuable, go share it with someone who needs to hear this message. And while you're at it, hit the like button so that we can spread this message far and wide, and subscribe so that you never miss out on any episode or all these life-changing conversations that I've curated specially for us and our growth. Until next time, keep thriving, keep evolving, and keep smiling.